Everything started with a dream. Not the kind you forget when you wake up, but the kind that pulls at your soul every day you're alive. For Ayaan, that dream was simple: to become a motivational speaker and inspire people with his voice. Born in a small town, Ayaan always felt like the world outside his window was calling him towards something bigger. He watched videos of successful people sharing their journeys, read books on resilience, and stayed up late scripting ideas for his first big speech. While others played games or hung out, Ayaan was building a dream brick by brick. But dreams, no matter how big or beautiful, often face their first enemy in silence, the kind of silence that follows your efforts, your messages, your outreach, with no response. When Ayaan finally mustered the courage to send his motivational video to 10 small platforms, not a single one replied. One platform even replied, "We get these all the time. You're not ready." It stung. It wasn't just rejection. It was the death of validation. For the first time, the confident voice inside him cracked. Maybe they were right. Maybe he wasn't good enough. He told himself it was just the beginning, but in truth, it was the first fall. And it hurt more than he thought it would. After the initial failures, the world didn't become quieter, it became louder. Voices surrounded Ayaan from every direction. "Why don't you get a real job? Everyone wants to be a speaker these days. You're wasting time trying to inspire people when you can't even fix your own life." But the loudest voice was the one inside his head. Doubt grew like a vine, wrapping around every corner of his mind. He began to question everything: his voice, his words, his value. What if his story wasn't worth sharing? Even his father, a practical man hardened by life, sat him down one evening and said gently, "Beta, not everyone gets to chase dreams. Sometimes, we must do what needs to be done." That night, Ayaan stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. He wasn't afraid of failure. He was afraid that maybe he was never meant to succeed at all. Ayaan took up a part-time job at a local store to keep the family off his back. Day by day, he became a version of himself he didn't recognize: quiet, routine-driven, uninspired. At night, he scrolled through social media, watching people he once admired live their dreams. Instead of motivation, he felt envy. Everyone was moving forward. He was stuck. He attended a few open mic events just to feel alive, but the applause was always for others. His words never landed. His stories felt flat. The loneliness became suffocating. Friends stopped calling. Opportunities stopped knocking. He was surrounded by people but completely alone. And the worst part? He started getting used to it. The real breaking point came when his mother fell ill. Hospital bills piled up. His father's business was declining. Every rupee mattered. And in that moment, Ayaan's dream became a burden. He sold his old camera, the one he used to film his motivational videos. Then his laptop. Then his books. He worked double shifts. Sleep became a luxury. Hope became a joke. One rainy night, after returning from work drenched and exhausted, he found an old notebook, his dream journal. He flipped through pages filled with fire and vision. A younger version of him had written things like, "One day, my words will heal someone. I will speak on a stage so big my parents can see me from home." He stared at those pages with tears in his eyes and whispered, "What happened to me?" Giving up wasn't a single decision, it was 1,000 small ones. Skipping writing for a day. Then a week. Then deleting the last video draft because it wasn't good enough. Every time someone asked, "Are you still trying that motivation thing?" he answered with a tired smile, "Not really." Deep down, Ayaan was mourning the slow death of his own passion. Then came the job offer: corporate, stable, full-time. Good salary. Respectable title. No room for side projects. He was ready to sign the papers. On the day of the interview, he stood in front of the mirror wearing a suit. He looked successful. But he didn't feel alive. And for the first time in months, a small voice inside him whispered, "This isn't who we are." A week later, a surprising email popped into his inbox. "Hi Ayaan, I found your old blog post from 2018. Your story about failing 3 times before your first stage gave me the courage to stand up again after my own failure. Just wanted to say thank you." It was signed, Ria, from Chicago. One message. One stranger. One forgotten blog post. It was the spark he didn't know he needed. He realized something important: people were listening. Maybe not thousands. Maybe not even hundreds. But someone, somewhere, was being moved by his story. He opened a blank document. He titled it, "Begin Again." This time, Ayaan didn't try to be perfect. He just tried to be real. He wrote every day. Posted weekly videos. His views? 12, then 19. Then 7. But he kept going. He stopped chasing trends and started chasing truth. He shared what he had learned about fear, rejection, and the quiet strength in showing up even when no one claps. Months passed. No viral moments. No overnight fame. But his inbox started filling up with thank you notes, just like Ria's. Each message was proof, his story mattered. There were still bad days, moments of doubt, comparison, and exhaustion. But Ayaan lived by one rule. Try one more time before giving up. He recorded podcasts using borrowed equipment. Wrote articles on his phone. Took up odd gigs just to survive. And slowly, life began to respond. A school invited him for a guest talk. A local YouTuber asked to collaborate. His name started appearing in places he once dreamed of. But more than anything, he found something he had lost: his voice. The world often claps for the final act, never realizing the bruises behind the curtains. As Ayaan began getting attention, some assumed he had always had it easy. They didn't know about the nights he cried himself to sleep, the rejection emails, or the countless times he almost quit. But he kept showing up, not for the applause, but for the promise he made to himself long ago. One day, during a Q&A, a student asked him, "How did you know not to give up?" He paused, smiled, and answered, "I didn't. I just decided to keep going anyway." Late one night, Ayaan received a handwritten letter in the mail. It was from a young man in a village in Assam. The letter said, "I was going to end my life. I had everything planned. But then I saw your video about not being born to break. And I cried for the first time in years. You didn't save my life. You reminded me that it still has value. Thank you for not giving up on your voice." Ayaan sat still for a long time. This was why he began. Not for fame. Not for followers. But to remind people that life, even in its darkest moments, can still be beautiful. The letter from Assam shook Ayaan to his core. It wasn't just a compliment, it was a wake-up call. His pain had become someone else's healing. His journey mattered. His voice mattered. He pinned that letter on the wall above his desk. And every time he felt tired, small, or invisible, he'd read it again. You reminded me that my life still has value. That line became his fuel. He promised himself, "I'll never give up again. Not on this dream. Not on me." Armed with renewed passion, Ayaan began rebuilding with purpose. He started waking up early, journaling, meditating, and creating content every day, even if no one watched. He studied top speakers not to copy, but to learn their emotional truth. He treated his dream like a responsibility now. He applied to 50 podcasts. 3 replied. He pitched himself to 30 schools. 2 said yes. It didn't matter. One door opening was all he needed. His first paid speech. 500 Indian rupees. But he spoke like it was a 5 Indian rupees lakh event. Because he wasn't speaking for money. He was speaking for that one broken soul listening in silence. At one such small event, fate introduced him to someone who would change his life. Meera Varma, a well-known life coach and author. She saw something in Ayaan's talk that others missed: authenticity. After the session, she walked up to him and said, "You remind me of who I was before success found me. You're not just speaking, you're healing. Don't stop." She invited him to join a mentorship program. Under her guidance, Ayaan refined his storytelling, practiced emotional intelligence, and learned how to build not just a speech, but a message. And most importantly, she taught him something life-changing. It's not about being the best. It's about being real. Even with guidance, Ayaan stumbled often. He blanked out during a live interview. One video attracted trolls who mocked his voice. Another school cancelled on him last minute. But each failure became a case study. Ayaan journaled every mistake, analyzed what went wrong, and improved. His mindset shifted. Mistake. Lesson. Rejection. Redirection. Delay. Preparation. He embraced the idea that progress isn't linear. It's messy, painful, and humbling. But it's always worth it. One day, Ayaan got the opportunity of a lifetime, an invitation to speak at a youth leadership conference in Delhi with over 2,000 attendees. It was everything he had ever dreamed of. But days before the event, he got laryngitis. His voice broke. He couldn't speak more than a whisper. Doctors advised rest. Friends said back out. But Ayaan showed up anyway. On stage, he whispered through the first few lines, but the room leaned in. Every word became a moment of vulnerability. His cracked voice became a symbol of his message. And when he said, "Even broken voices deserve to be heard," the crowd gave him a standing ovation. He didn't just break the wall. He shattered it. With his story gaining momentum, Ayaan launched an initiative called Unbreakable Voices. A platform for young people to share their struggles anonymously and receive support. The platform grew rapidly. It wasn't just about Ayaan anymore, it was about everyone who had been told, "You're not enough." Through online sessions, mentorships, and short documentaries, Ayaan gave others what he once craved: hope. And every time someone found courage through his work, it felt like another reason why quitting was never an option. A year after launching Unbreakable Voices, Ayaan was invited to speak at an international TEDx event. As he stood behind the iconic red dot, he remembered every sleepless night, every tear, every voice that said, "You'll never make it." And then he spoke, not to impress, but to connect. He shared his darkest hours, the letter from Assam, and the truth behind every smile on social media. He ended with a simple sentence. "You don't need 1,000 people to believe in you. You just need one, yourself." The talk went viral. Millions watched. Thousands messaged. And suddenly, Ayaan was no longer the boy who failed. He was the man who rose. Success didn't make Ayaan arrogant, it made him grateful. He bought his parents a small home. Took his mother to her dream temple. Hired a team to expand his platform. He still worked long hours. Still faced criticism. But he had peace. Because now, every hardship felt like it had a purpose. And every time someone asked him, "How did you do it?" he smiled and said, "By showing up every day, even when I wanted to disappear." Not once. But every single time life knocked him down. And as he ended years later, Ayaan received a message from a school teacher in his hometown. "Your old school wants you to speak at the annual function. The kids admire you." As he stood on that stage, the same one he once sat before as a student, he looked at the young faces and remembered his own journey. He told them about failure, fear, shame, and loneliness. But he also told them about rising. Not once. But every single time life knocked him down. And as he ended his talk, he took out a worn piece of paper, Ria's email, and read it aloud. "Thank you for being the voice I needed." Years passed. Ayaan's name became known. His books sold globally. His talks reached remote villages and urban colleges alike. But his mission remained the same, to remind people that they matter. He started a scholarship fund for struggling students. Built content in multiple languages. Trained aspiring speakers to find their own authentic voice. One morning, Ayaan received a package. Inside was a book. Written by a young man from Assam. The dedication read, "To the man who taught me not to give up, even when the world said I should." Ayaan smiled with tears in his eyes. This was the legacy he had built, not one of wealth or fame, but of courage, connection, and unstoppable hope. Maybe right now, you're tired. Maybe you failed more times than you can count. Maybe you feel invisible, unheard, or broken. But listen closely. Your story isn't over. You were never meant to be average. You were meant to rise. Not just once, but again. And again. Even when the world says no. Don't you dare give up. Because someone, someday, will look at your journey and whisper, "If they can do it, maybe I can too."